Hi, I'm Mindy Sutherland, and for my theoretical framework, I'm looking at problem-based learning. Problem-based learning is a student-centered instructional method that directs the problem to the student. So the teacher is more of a facilitator rather than directly influencing the learning in the classroom. So as mentioned in the previous slide, problem-based learning is focused on student-centered classrooms. So instead of the teacher directly facilitating students, they take more of a scaffolding approach and use more inquiry-based teaching, where they ask the students to find the problem rather than just giving the students the problem. This method encourages students to identify what they know, what they don't know, and to find solutions to the problem. Haley Kinney did a fabulous job breaking down problem-based learning in her learning theory handout. She identifies what the benefits are, including the developed social skills and the accountability of students in their own thinking and problem solving, as well as the key components of problem-based learning and how it is worked out in the classroom. My first article looks at problem-based learning and student motivation. So they look at this through self-reflection exercises, surveys, and peer evaluations. They had weekly problem-based learning sessions that they conducted with 2 facilitators, and they would ask open-ended questions, and they followed the problem-based learning that we talked about earlier that Haley Kinney exemplified. This was done in Toronto, and the findings showed that students felt like there wasn't enough instructor guidance, but they did see an increased group effort and responsibility of their own learning. It seems like the workload was also larger with problem-based learning, and that it did not motivate students in the self-directed learning for forensic specialists, which is the highest level of experienced students. My second article that I looked at technology and how it enhances problem-based learning and students' attitudes as far as their learning is concerned. This was another problem-based learning theoretical perspective, and it was a case study that included 12 ninth graders at a state high school in Ankara, Turkey. The participants showed that their learning outcomes were enhanced because they were able to retain attention and it increased their interest. It also shows that technology with problem-based learning can help students' attitudes and achievements. The group work made it more enjoyable. The technology-enhanced program-based learning helped with the relatability of the lessons in everyday life, and it gave the students a larger sense of responsibility for their own learning. My third article looked at the problem-based learning process and some reflections of pre-service teachers. This was done in Turkey, and it had 16 voluntary third-year pre-service teachers that were divided into groups of 5. They used semi-structured interviews, which allowed for flexibility. This means that the researchers were able to also ask more questions if needed, or the participants were able to respond to questions in different ways if necessary. The case study was a qualitative research, and the process of the problem-based learning was used as the participants were put into groups, and they had to find the problem using news articles from Turkey, and this was a social studies experiment, so they were conducting these problem-based learning process through social studies. So the groups had to come up with a problem, and using the problem-based learning process, they had to identify solutions, and then as a group they had to talk about that. Some of the positive things that were found were that they gained knowledge and problem-solving skills through the experience. They wondered, though, if problem-based learning could be applicable to all subjects. And while most participants had positive feelings toward problem-based learning, there was one student who felt that there was an overwhelming sense of responsibility for their own learning. I hope that you've learned a little bit more about problem-based learning. I know that I did. I think it's really interesting that students can really take charge of their own understanding and learning through problem-based learning. And here are some of my references that I used. Thank you.